Okay. Uh, Hello everyone, this is Timo from ProductiveSuperdad.com. Today I'm excited to be talking with Matt Tanguay of FluentBrain.com, and the topic we are going to cover is mind mapping. Matt is an expert of this topic, and I have to admit that I haven't used mind mapping that much myself, just a couple of times, but I hope that this conversation is going to change that. Now, this interview is going to be a different kind of one what you have seen before. So instead of having a traditional one with two talking heads on the screen, Matt is going to answer to my questions by using mind mapping. And I think that this is a great way to add depth to the discussion and get the point across why you should learn more about mind mapping and why it's beneficial for your business. Anyway, without any further ado, let's dive into this interview. And Matt, how are you?
Very good, Timo. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure, of course.
How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Thank you. Now, let's start with a quick introduction first. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and where are you coming from?
Sure. So like you said, I was going to answer with a mind map, so I thought, might as well do a little visual here. I
Sure,
just took
please go
about, not even 5 minutes to do this, just to show you how quick it can be. And so I'll start with who I am. You might have an idea here with these few elements. I'm first and foremost an entrepreneur. My business is called Fluent Brain. We do visual facilitation. I'll talk more about that later. Love challenges. I just came back from California doing Tough Mudder. I don't know if you guys know about that. It's considered to be the world's toughest obstacle course, 20 kilometers in the mountains with 20 plus military style obstacles. It's pretty insane, actually.
So you basically came back alive from there.
Yeah, all bruised up and a lot of injuries and stuff, but it was worth it. It was awesome. Love people. I've been organizing a few parties by myself, and then recently I've done a bigger one with other people, and we're starting to do this regularly. We had 350 people on the guest list. It's just so much fun for me to welcome people and organize a party and so on and so on.
Yeah.
I've been playing the piano since I'm 5. It's probably my biggest passion. I've danced, a few dances, swing, tango, stuff like that. So I have a bit of an artistic side also. And I'm very fitness focused. I've been on a almost strict vegan diet for a few years, and then a little bit less strict in the last maybe year or so. And, a lot of yoga and exercise and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit about my path. I studied originally in IT in Quebec City at Université Laval, so I did a bac in computer science. I worked there in that field for 7 years, 5 of which were as an employee, and 2 of which were on my own. But I was actually always client-facing. From my first job, they sent me to a client that were like, get their needs, work with them, and go to their offices and work with them, basically.
Yeah.
At some point, I had some health issues, and I decided to left IT. I had a lot of negative associations, so I went on a trip in Europe, came back, and I was like, okay, that's a life coach. I want to be a life coach. And then I tried that. I tried professional coaching. I tried a few things. My friends pushed me into dating coaching, which was kind of interesting. Did that for a year. It was more about self-confidence, but still.
Yeah.
Eventually, I asked myself, what can I do that I'll be credible in, I will be able to get clients, and the answer was mind mapping, because I had been using that since my my bachelor's. I learned about it there, and then with my clients in IT, I used it a lot, brainstorming, problem solving, needs gathering, stuff like that. And so I started doing training with a training center here in Quebec, in Quebec City as well as here in Montreal. It's called AFI Expertise, and eventually it became speed mind mapping in 2009. I went to CEO Space in Las Vegas, which is an international business forum to meet other CEOs. And eventually it evolved into services that I have now, which is Fluent Brain, and that's where I am today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is really awesome. And did you mention how long did it took for you to create this mind map? You know, did you say that? Yeah, all this. Did you say that it took like how much time did it took for you to create this mind map? Was it very quick to create, or?
That was about 5 minutes, not even.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what I remembered hearing,
Yeah.
because it's really awesome, and I think that this was a great demonstration of mind mapping in action, showing where you're coming from and telling a little bit about your past in this form. So it was really awesome. So, lots of great information already there. So
Thank you. And by the way, this is not a traditional mind map. What you will see normally is something more like this.
Yeah.
That's really a mind map by definition, at least.
Yeah.
But I do use a lot of. Hold on a second. Just going to show that again.
Mm-hmm.
Technical logistics. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And but we'll talk more about that. But essentially, it's a good thing to use the floating topics, which is what this is.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about mind mapping and basically what this interview is really all about. You said that you are an entrepreneur, but why should you learn more about mind mapping or mind mapping in general? Why it's beneficial for an entrepreneur?
I think, well, first of all, it's not necessarily for everybody, although there might be some benefits for everybody, but it's not everybody that will actually like doing mind mapping. For example, my business coach, or should I say former business coach, because we just stopped working together. I didn't have any questions anymore at some point. I was like, okay, might as well stop.
Yeah.
You might know him. It's actually Danny Eni from Fireball Marketing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And he never catched on to mind mapping, never liked it. And the guy's brilliant. He just works everything in his mind. So it's not for him, right? And that's fine. But for most people, they definitely get value out of mind mapping. I think mind mapping is really a subset of visual thinking. If you have a chance, go on my website to the What It Is page. I'm just going to show you quickly here. I have a table here that lists the features, benefits of thinking out loud versus thinking visually. And you definitely clearly see the difference of benefits between these three. Right? Thinking is just, in your head. Thinking out loud, you say it or you think with somebody else. And thinking visually, now you have some diagrams and mind maps and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really awesome. It's a great way to show the differences between each type of thinking. Yeah, I will definitely include this link on the show notes.
Good.
When this interview goes live. So.
But essentially, for mind mapping itself, I would say it's a really good way to organize information. First of all, to capture information. Everything that's in your head, everything that comes out of a meeting, but not exactly each word, although sometimes it is relevant. If someone has a sentence for a slogan or a paragraph of something they want to mention, sometimes it's relevant to actually capture everything. So you have to be fast enough to capture that kind of information while following a discussion. But so the capture and then the organization of that information, then you can prioritize, you can plan. But I think it's especially relevant when developing something, when building something, a project, a product, a service, a new joint venture, to explore a new relationship, a new role of somebody. It doesn't matter what it is, but when it's something new, you're creating something, I think mind mapping is especially relevant in that case.
Yeah.
It's not a magic bullet for everything, but it has some really good uses.
Yeah. It's the way I see it is that it's a great way of actually, clearing out your mind and putting what you have on your mind into a document and seeing it in a visual form. And in many cases, I think that what I have realized. I mean, I used to be a software developer, and what used to happen was that sometimes the times when I used mind mapping was that I needed to understand a concept, and I felt that mind mapping was the best way to do it because I was able to see all the different relationships between the different items of that particular entity. So it truly helped me to grasp the concepts, much quicker than, just trying to figure out without any visual aids. So I think that there are lots of great benefits when it comes to mind mapping. And of course, if you are a visual person, so mind mapping is a great way to explain a certain topic in a visual manner. So.
And I totally agree. And by the way, I think visual people versus non-visual people is actually a misnomer. I think that everybody is a visual person, and to some degree. I mean, we all have actually our sight. The neurons in our brain for the sight actually take much of the sensory neurons. They're the majority, and the other senses take a lot less space. A lot less percentage of the neurons. So I think our eyes or our sight is extremely important in humans, in animals also. I mean. But so we're to some degree we're all visual, but I also agree that some people are more visual than others. So
yeah, exactly. Now, I think that mind mapping is also a very important part when it comes to productivity in many ways. But do you think that what are the biggest benefits when it comes to improving your productivity? What can mind mapping, improve in your productivity if you want to improve that part of your life?
I would say probably two things: planning and developing. Like I said earlier, developing projects, and within projects you can include, meetings, brainstorming sessions, strategic decisions. Prioritization, even presentations to other people to communicate the information. And the planning part, it's useful to use a dashboard. And I have, if you guys want, I have a free one that you can download and just use in a couple of versions actually. But a planning dashboard is very useful, and you look at it every day, and you just go through kind of your getting things done categories of things to do, and then you just choose whatever is most relevant for that day, and then you plan it. You can prioritize it. Actually, I could just give you a simple example here real quick. My maps, planning. So you have I have a shortcut to it, obviously.
Yeah.
So every day I just click on that shortcut. So I have all my categories. So I have a bunch of subcategories here for lead generation and so on and so on. So I just review this, and then I say I move these actions within today, so that I do these things today. Okay, so that's one way to plan. And for projects, it's really it really depends on your project, but normally you would have your project in the middle and all the components, and then you can click on each component to have the mind map for that component and sub-components and so on and so on. So, just using the mind map structure to capture and organize your project, I think is very useful for better productivity, really.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know that mind mapping is well, for many people it's a new topic. And as I said in the introduction, that I have used or I have done some mind mapping before, but not really that much, and I would like to do more of that in the future. But how would you advise me to, I mean, if I want to start out with mind mapping, how would you advise me to get started with it? I mean, are there any basic steps that you should take, or how to get started with mind mapping?
Yeah, I would say before starting with a software, I would recommend pen and paper. And even before
Hmm.
you use pen and paper, well, you could just get started right now. You take a piece of paper, you draw a central element, and then you put a name in it, whatever idea, person, project, problem, whatever it is. But you put something in that central bubble, and then you
Hmm.
just add sub-bubble, So you
Yeah.
draw a line, you draw another bubble or a line, and you write something, and then you write something underneath, and it's a hierarchy, right? So you can just build your
Hmm.
mind map on paper like this. Paper is great. It's a lot more tactile. It's a lot more, hands-on. I think
Hmm.
you remember more if you use pen and paper,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's very limited. You can't copy paste, you can't cancel, you can't, all the basic features. You can't do that. You can't
Yeah.
export to PDF and print it out. You can't copy the information to an email, stuff like that. So you're very limited in space also.
Hmm.
And the other thing I would say is to watch some videos online, read some articles. There are a bunch of books also on mind
Hmm.
mapping specifically. Tony Buzan has written some good ones. There's, I think, Jamie Nast that wrote Idea Mapping. I believe that's the name.
Hmm.
There's actually a bunch of mind mapping books. I have barely gone through, um, a couple, but really I've just been going at it by experience. Just
Yeah.
start mind mapping and do it your own way. You don't have to respect exactly the rules because I'm bending the rules a lot of
Yeah.
traditional mind mapping. I'm really not doing it the same way, and I think
Yeah.
that's fine. It works for me. It works for my clients, and so you have to go to use it the way you want, and eventually try some softwares. Try the main ones. I would say Mind Manager from MindJet. Here's a short list here. We'll include this in the handouts, but here's a list.
Sure.
So MindJet Mind Manager, there's Tony
Hmm.
Buzan's iMindMap, there's NovaMind, MindMap, which is interesting. It's a new one. They have a free version. It's becoming interesting. It's not quite there yet, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
MindGenius, MindMeister, which is an online version, and you have XMind. They also have a free version and a pro version. This is also a good software. And
Yeah.
I personally
Yeah.
use Mind Manager the most, but that's the most expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, so if we still talk a little bit about getting started, so you said that basically the pen and paper approach is something, it's a great way to start. And obviously, I agree because when you think of it, I mean, the level of entry is very low. You can just, uh, take a pen and piece of paper and, start, jotting down your ideas and notes and bubbles. And I guess that there really isn't anything else than that. Like you don't have to know any fundamentals of mind mapping before you can get started. So it's just pen and paper approach in its basic form, I guess.
Well, I mean, there are fundamentals that are useful for you to do some good mind maps. But to just getting started, you can just pick up a piece of paper, pen, a color pen,
Yeah. Oh,
and maybe some
yeah.
markers, but to include some colors in there, some drawings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it's going to give you a more visceral experience of mind mapping, a better feel for it. And
Hmm.
I've used it tremendously on paper, and I still
Yeah.
did until recently. Where, for example, for my vision or my mission or my goals or my vision of my life and stuff like that, just remind yourself every day and put it in your subconscious. So I've done a lot of mind mapping on paper.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
books full of handbooks full of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um, yeah. So that's great information there what you said, and if we talk about a little bit more about the tools, like you have a great list of tools shown on the screen, um, but I mean, are there any should I say prerequisites, or do you think that there are any functionality that you should look out for mind mapping tool before you choose one for your daily use.
Right. Um, well, I'm not really a reference. I'm not a good example, to mention what my expectations are because that's what I do every day. I do visual facilitation with mind mapping and other tools, and
Yeah.
so I have very intense use of visual tools, right?
Hmm.
But so it's going to depend on your needs, obviously. But I would say a few things. To be able to export to PDF is extremely useful if you want to send that to someone else. They don't have the
Yeah.
software. You want it to be compatible, right?
Yeah.
Floating topics, like I've done before in one of the maps here, actually the
Hmm.
first one, things like that where you can just include a floating topic anywhere, and you can
Hmm.
insert relationships between them and stuff like that. Some software actually don't allow that, right?
Yeah.
Um, for example, MindMeister is a good online tool. It's a simple tool. It has a low barrier to entry, and it has
Uh-huh.
a lot of benefits. But at the same time, it doesn't allow floating topics, and I think that's missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the third thing I would say is to have good control over the formatting of the map. To be able to set the color and the text size and the basic stuff really. But to have some good features in terms of formatting the fill color, the font color, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Images to be able to set the size of the images, and the more the better really at that point, because you want to be able to have to create beautiful maps and to have control over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, it depends on your needs, right?
Yeah. Of course. Of course. Yeah. I think that those points are great, and I'll definitely try to remember, those when I'm, choosing my tool. I mean, I have been using MindMaster, but that's pretty much the only mind mapping tool that I have used so far. So,
Okay.
so I think that it all comes down to testing new applications and then figuring out what suits you the best. So that's basically what it is.
Definitely.
Yeah. Um, Now, I still have one thing that I wanted to cover in this interview, and you are blogging, I'm blogging as well. Um, but let's take mind mapping into a practical level, and let's talk about mind mapping and blogging. Is it possible to take advantage of mind mapping when you are blogging or when you are a blogger? And maybe if there's some kind of a demonstration that you could show us.
Sure. I'm actually showing right now my own map for blogging. So that's Fluent Brain.
Uh, sorry, Max, I'm barely able to hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying now I'm
Yeah.
showing the Fluent Brain's blog map, mind map. Okay, that's the actual
Hmm.
map that I use, and
Hmm.
that's just kind of the menu. And then I have my posts, my guest posts, and some of those series that I had. And
Hmm.
now I have, and it's not very well laid out. I don't have any images, but it's just for the structure, the content. It helps me to know where everything is. The posts that I've published, the ones that are on standby, the ideas, the to-dos, and so on and so on. I don't have any in
Yeah.
progress right now. And more recently, I've just been creating new posts, and they've been shorter posts. I didn't have as much preparation to do, but especially
Hmm.
when I did the um, ebook parts before I
Hmm.
actually published the ebook. So the supercharging your mind mapping ebook, I did 3 posts, parts 1 to 3, and that
Yeah.
was extremely useful to have a brainstorming before, and eventually to have the versions of the post. Okay, so my
Hmm.
draft, I got feedback from my coach, and eventually I had a revised version. Okay, let's
Yeah.
look at some other examples. I think I have. Okay, these ones too. I think they're going to be. Let me open them from my computer here. Just 1 second. Blog. Just the link is broken here. Okay, let's see. Here's another example.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't have any versions here. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's see another example. Okay. Well, I don't have the versions element here, but you saw another
Mm-hmm.
example, so that's fine. But that was a post that I did for giving feedback to MindJet about
Mm-hmm.
their Mind Manager software. Just my perspective, my ideas about their software, how it could be improved, and so on, and the bugs and so on. That was one of the posts. And
Mm-hmm.
so you see, there's a lot of stuff. I check mark everything that I've written in the blog post because I was doing a draft within WordPress, and every time that
Mm-hmm.
would cover one element, I would just check it off. And there's a bunch of notes here. Those were just that was my initial brainstorm. I
Yeah.
added an element and then I put a bit of notes in it, and so on and so on. And that really helped me to create that post. And that was a huge post. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
work went into it. Took a lot of time. That really helped me to organize it. And obviously, it didn't look like this in the beginning, right? And that was
Yeah. Yeah.
a later iteration, this structure. But you can come to something like this that helps you create a good post within a few days, of going through it and revising it and using the
Mm-hmm.
mind map to structure it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 It does. It does. Well, this is really great stuff. I'll definitely have to start using mind mapping more, and I was just thinking that maybe I could turn my Excel sheets or the Excel sheets that I have basically created when it comes to my guest posting. I'm doing some heavy guest posting at the moment, so I'm keeping my guest posts up to date and track all those statuses of the posts and all that stuff on Excel sheets. And I was thinking that maybe I could actually transform that data into a form of mind map. So that would be really nice experiment, and that would most likely learn or teach me more about mind mapping in general. So I think that having a concrete project and concrete task would be the best way to learn more about this topic. And I think that it's all about experimenting and trying new things, and that's basically the way you are going to learn anyway. So
Right. Well, I definitely encourage you to give it a try and play with it. And
mhm.
the best way really to learn is just experiment and use it for your own needs. And
Yeah,
I mean, you can definitely inspire yourself from the guidelines and the books and the rules and so on, but don't be strict about it.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a mistake. I mean, use it for your own needs. Take whatever works for you and leave the rest.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great advice, and I'll definitely start creating my mind maps from now on. So I want to learn more about this topic, and
For
reap the
sure.
benefits of it. So
And by the way, once you've played with it a little bit, I've published a ebook that's called Supercharging Your Mind Mapping. I just mentioned that a little bit earlier, but
yeah.
essentially it's a free ebook. You can just download it, and it's for MindJet Mind Manager. I'm going to do it for
Mhm.
other versions for other software as well, but for now that's for the software, and
Mhm.
it's really to push your skills to another level. Once you've played with it for a few days, a few weeks, you've created a bunch of mind maps. It's to help you with the shortcuts and the best ways to do things and the fastest ways. And now that's really
Yeah.
going to improve your experience and your productivity quite a bit. So you
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
might want to download that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And also, I'm gonna include a link to the show notes so that people can check it out and download the ebook as well. So
Sounds good.
that's really great. Yeah, that's great stuff. Uh, Matt, it has been a pleasure talking with you, and I know that this topic is actually very big, and that we have just scratched the surface. But You have definitely convinced me that I should get started with mind mapping and do more of this stuff. So thank you for being on this interview and giving us these demonstrations. It has been a great way to explain this. I think that in some ways it can be complex. You can also take it to that level, but of course mind mapping in essence is a simple a simple way of actually expressing what's on your mind. But it's a great way that you gave us some practical demonstrations on how to get started and what mind mapping can actually do for us when it comes to productivity and other parts of things. So
You are
really awesome.
well. You're very welcome, and I'm glad that I'm having a positive influence on you.
Yeah, exactly. So I have been neglecting this area so long, so I thought that it would be a right time to change that and learn more about this topic. So you were the best person to be on this interview, I believe. So
Fantastic. Thank you again so much for having me, Timo.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Matt. Okay,
Have a
bye.
great day.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.